succeeded in vagueness, and then I won.
Okay, so you're gonna have to explain this vagueness argument to me. I don't want you guys getting super attached to this thing. There's no reason to assume it's that much stronger than any other argument. I'm not, if you're bringing it wrong or in the wrong circumstance, then I would disagree with it as a strategy. Let me hear it. Well, okay, well tell me, walk me through it then.
So it's just like
What do we actually need?
I've just been building on this whole thing. It's pretty bad now, but so you just
Okay, come in closer so we can hear you, please.
okay. So I have observation too. That's like they can't be vague and they're constructive or they need to lose the round. And in the cross, I asked them whether or not they know stuff like how to change the national primary. If they say it doesn't matter, then I have to say like, oh, if it doesn't matter, then we can choose what they want to do. And then like
that part, yes. That observation, there's no reason to interpret the resolution that way. Read that observation again.
oh, it basically says like they have the burden to be clear in their introduction as to how they're going to change the national primary, or we can't weigh like the benefits and the harms and the costs and all that stuff.
Is this if you go first?
I think you can run it either way.
Okay, well, if you go second,
Because I said constructive or cross.
do you specify the level of specificity you require out of them?
Just how we're going to change the national primary.
Okay, but you say they must be specific regarding how, right?
Yeah, regarding how to change the national primary.
Okay, but then what constitutes, how will they meet that burden? Do you explain to them how they can meet that burden?
How they're going to change the national primary.
Okay, but if I've met the burden and on the other side, what does that look like?
Nobody's managed to do that yet, but
Nobody's managed to do that yet. Okay, well, look, you've got to, I think you have to, if this be strong, you have to be prepared to be more specific about the burden you're assigning them. Okay? Because if I'm going up against this, my answer would be, my opponents have insisted that we provide a level of specificity in the affirmative constructive, but they have not even provided any specificity about what that would look like. So we have no idea what would be specific enough. Are you taking notes? Guys, get paper out. Let's take notes, please. Why am I the only one taking notes? Fine, take notes on the computer. Jesus, Alice, you act like I'm torturing you. I am. A little bit. Alright, specifics. So if you're going to make that argument, you need to say, here are the... You could put it this way. My opponents should be reasonably prepared to answer questions regarding the logistics of this process. Who's responsible for it and what they do. Okay?
okay, let me change.
My opponents should be prepared. Hi, Abraham.
Hey, can I tell you something?
Yes, you can. You want me to go outside with you, or you want to tell me?
Thursday, so can we showcase the duel to everyone after?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good.
Okay, Starbucks.
We could film it too. Yeah, if you guys want to take a break here and go to Starbucks, then that's going to have to happen.
Hungry.
All right. Well, listen. Hey, don't right this second. Not right this second. We didn't even get started on
Wait,
this.
my opponent should be prepared to argue logistics.
Why are you?
No, to be able to. My opponent should be prepared to answer questions. Okay.
Wait.
Like, how so? No, what their DDEF is basically saying that it's a thing where
Okay, my
the
opponent
side
should
wants
be
to
prepared
slow down the economy.
No, to answer questions
Because growth is bad, and growth is bad because it's unsustainable, and
regarding
sustainability means that
the role
at the end we just run out
of
stuff.
parties
And when we run out of stuff, we die. And it's really bad.
and the federal government. And the single-day primary they advocate.
What is this for again?
Huh?
What is that for?
Well, if you were going to make this sort of vagueness observation, then you need to set it up better, okay? And that means like this. My opponent should be prepared to answer questions regarding the role of parties, the states, and the federal government in the single-day primary they advocate. And you're going to have to support this.
So my opponent should be prepared to answer questions regarding the role of parties in the federal government in the single-day primary they advocate for.
Yeah. And you're going to explain why. You're going to give some warrants for it. Warrant A will be
But I want this to be like a squirrely thing. I don't want it to be like a contention.
But squirrely means
it's going to be weak, dude. It's going to be weak. The more squirrely you get, you have to be squirrely smart, not squirrely weak, okay?
Prepare to answer questions. What does that say?
Regarding, R-E. Regarding the role of parties, the states, and the federal government in the single-day primary, SDP, single-day primary, they advocate.
The role of parties.
Okay. So, a substantial percentage of impacts are linked to. If you wanted to set this case up as a smart case, Alice, you should be taking notes on it instead of being on your phone. A substantial percentage of impacts are linked to party involvement. And you can. That's warrant A. A substantial percentage of impacts are linked to party involvement.
What is that?
Single-day primary, they advocate. A substantial percentage of impacts are linked to party involvement. That's warrant 1 or warrant A. And then the explanation on number 1 is you could say,
I feel like explanation.
well, you could say, that this is the process that, after all, this is the process that selects the party nominee. That
Yeah. I think I failed on my English one.
Take the math one. I was the last one done.
The math one was
So sad.
The math one was easy.
The math placement test was so much easier.
I don't think they're going to focus unless they get caffeine.
all right, party nominee. We'll be done here. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's just outline this one case, okay, guys? Hey, shh. So, the two sub-warrants under A are going to be, is the party nominee is being chosen here, and you, what?
So I just put warrant A as the substantial amount of impacts are linked to party involvement because this is the process that selects the party nominee.
Right. And then the second warrant is because parties in the status quo administer much of primary election processes. So, in other words, you can't do a single day primary without substantially affecting the party and the individuals within them. Without what? Did I say the wrong word? Anyway, you can't do it without substantially impacting the party, so why could we possibly imagine it would be meaningful to impact this without considering the parties? We can't know the impact unless they're able to answer questions about the parties. I would say then your second warrant, B, is going to be same thing, except a substantial percentage of impacts are linked to constitutionality arguments. Without knowing the role of the federal government, we can't possibly make constitutionality arguments, and we can't possibly affirm unless we know whether this thing. Yeah, you basically say linked to constitutionality arguments. If they won't answer questions about the federal government's role.
Because we can't determine impacts if they don't give the role of the federal government.
No, you argue like this, though. If they won't answer questions regarding the role of the federal government, we can't affirm because we can't establish whether or not the proposed advocacy is constitutional. We can't affirm whether or not
Did anybody actually ever fix this?
the advocacy, because proposed, the advocacy
Crappy attempt to cut cards.
is constitutional.
You can fix it if you want.
Substantial amendment impact to constitutionality and if you received it, abilities to answer questions not from whether or not the advocacy is constitutional.
You guys gonna see this? You got it?
Wait, so I put a substantial amendment impacts are linked to constitutionality, and if they refuse to answer questions, then we can't affirm because we don't know whether or not the advocacy is constitutional.
Right. Right. We have no means of determining the constitutionality of. We don't want to accidentally affirm something that turns out to be very unconstitutional, and especially if some sort of change in our approach could make it constitutional, and that would solve the problem. You want to argue that they have a burden instead of saying they have a burden to be specific and not being specific about that. You say they have a burden to be specific, to answer questions about this stuff. And that way, you're still not being specific about exactly what questions you have to ask and which ones they don't have to answer, but you're setting up the questions. You're setting it up to make them be specific without even saying it. Without using the word specific, you're saying they need to answer questions about this. Because otherwise, we don't know this and we don't know that. And we can't affirm unless we know at least these things. And here's why we can't affirm. For all we know, this advocacy could be advocating something involving killing every third person. And we don't know because they haven't provided any details about it. There's no reason to affirm something that gives us this little detail in terms of how it's going to actually be implemented or what's going to happen. We have no reason to predict any good impacts from something that isn't specific enough to provide details regarding its impact on parties and constitutionality when those are the main two areas of impacts in this round. Okay? What?
So they ask what they need to clarify, then I can say they need to like be specific on party involvement and
No, you're not putting them on a burden to clarify. You are saying they have to answer questions about this. Then there's no reason to affirm because they're not giving us enough information to affirm. So this is the minimum amount of information they must do. They must be able and willing to answer questions about the role of the federal government in their single-day primary and about the role of the parties.
They must be willing and able to answer questions about
The role of the parties and the role of the federal government in their proposed single-day primary. Nom saw? Nice. Nom saw? Nice. In their proposed single-day primary.
So would that be the observation and then 1A and B would be like extension?
No, I think you don't just run it as an observation. You run it explicitly as affirmative burden. As affirmative burden or affirmative burdens, and you explain this is one of the affirmative burdens. Alice, can you put your phone away? It's an affirmative burden because it establishes the app that they must do at least this to win the round. Don't try to be dishonest about it and get squirrely with it. You just say right out, this is an app burden. They have to provide this information because if they don't give us any reason to affirm. We can't affirm it when there's a good chance, it's 50-50 chance it's unconstitutional. Why would we affirm it?
Wait, so this is an affirmative burden. We can't affirm without legal stipulation.
I can't hear you.
So this is an affirmative burden because what do you say after that?
Oh, this is an affirmative burden because we cannot affirm this thing if there's a 50-50 chance that it's unconstitutional. And they will not provide enough information about the federal government to know if it's constitutional or not. If they want to answer questions about the parties, then we don't know what the impact is going to be on the vast majority of the individuals actually going to be impacted by this, which is, say, active party members, people who are canvassing, doing, what's it called? What is going on
We
in
don't
there?
answer questions that we don't have the ability to.
If they don't answer questions, then about the parties, you have to ask. There are two separate things here. If they don't answer questions of the federal government, then we don't know whether the advocacy the thing they advocate is constitutional or not. It's a 50-50 chance. We should not affirm something that has a 50% chance of being unconstitutional. It's too much gambling, right? It's too much gambling, is your point. We shouldn't make policy that's just a crapshoot like that. We should have to know ahead of time. Okay. So that's one of your arguments. The other argument is,
We have to go early, she has choir.
okay, no problem.
Huh?
The other thing is, what is,
Wait, wait, I'm just organizing.
Trust the teacher.
Yeah, I know.
Trust the teacher.
I'm an Airbud Ninja.
You look more like a medical. Yeah, that's the like you look like you have cancer.
I'm like a medical patient.
It's like you're.
You got to attack them with their weak boys. Go.
They don't answer the
They
question.
didn't hit me on my deathbed. It's some 8th graders in the year 2052. How many years is that from now? It's a good amount of time. 2052, something, 40 years. I probably got 100 years left in me, I'd say. Okay, so what were we talking about? Something exciting?
Going Starbucks.
Oh yeah, well we have to finish that thing though. The other impact was what? The first one was about, oh yeah, we can't do that because we have a 50% chance of affirming something it's going to be unconstitutional. We wouldn't want to do that, not knowing. We'd want to at least know enough to be sure it's not unconstitutional. They won't answer questions, we can't know that, and therefore we shouldn't affirm it. Second reason we can't affirm if they won't answer these questions is because if they won't answer questions about the impacts on the political parties, then Edmund will be on his phone, and then the whole universe will go
This isn't
suffer.
my phone. This
Oh,
is
it's
his.
his phone. Okay.
We also
Then,
can't affirm
if the second one, if we don't answer questions about political parties, then they aren't. We can't affirm it because it might be. We have no idea what it's going to do to the people who are going to be the only people who are going to be substantially impacted by this, or the people who are going to be impacted most, which is to say the party members. Who's going to be impacted most by this? The party members. Who are impacted most. Okay, fine.